It's the Sports Peninsula Podcast. Coming up, we're kicking off our 6th season at the Sports Peninsula Podcast. The tradition continues as each season we open with our first round NFL mock draft. Everyone likes putting their general manager's hat on and trying to predict where their favorite players land and hope their team lands the next generational talent. We look forward to this every year, and 2023 is no exception. Now here is your Sports Peninsula team. Wow, welcome to the Sports Peninsula Podcast. My name is Dave Jasinski. Drew, it is April 25th, a Tuesday. We are 48 hours away from the NFL Draft, the 2023 NFL Draft. Cannot wait. We're kicking off our 6th season. And joining me is our founder, co-host, Coach Andy Shield of the Marine City Mariners. Coach, this is it. 6th time. How you feeling?
6 times a charm. But no, man, it's wild. 6 years we've done it. And, and the NFL Draft is our, that is our, I guess, our signature recipe. That is our Big Mac. That is our Whopper. That is our Model T, whatever you want to call it. That's where it all started. We've horsed around and done like periodic parts of Red Wing drafts before, and I think we even did a Pistons one once.
We did.
But yeah, this is exciting times, and it's second year with Justin Marquand joining our awesome experience and fun time here. So it's gonna be great, and congratulations, Drew, to you as well. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's bring in Detroit's finest, Justin Marquand. Justin, year 2. Gotta love it. How you feeling?
I just feel very grateful and appreciative that I'm a part of this with you guys. It's always fun breaking down, the lines during the season, and then, the real work begins where we start to break down all these players, 120 plus college football players. And now we're here. Thursday is the draft, and, it sounds like it's going to be a pretty crazy one. So This is going to be one for the books, I believe.
Yes, it will. And gentlemen, we've and folks, we have our playlist for our NFL draft content. All the positional podcasts are in there. You can check it out. Very difficult, and a lot changed even from when we were doing position groups 2 months ago to just a week ago, and we just finished up the quarterbacks. And there's rumors all over the place, and of course that happens every year. But it seems like more than most this year. And we're just excited to get down to this. So we are going to jump into this right now, and we rotate the picks. We do not assume any trades. Now, we may change that next year. We've been talking about that, but nothing's official yet. But, with the draft coming to where's it go? It's going to be in Detroit. That's right. And I guarantee they're going to set attendance record. Guarantee it. But I digress. It's going to be a great time. We may do something special for that. We'll definitely be there. I can guarantee that. So we're looking forward to this, but let's just jump into it right now. We are getting into the first round 2023 NFL mock draft from the Sports Peninsula Podcast, and the first pick is to the Carolina Panthers, and that's you, Justin. Who you getting?
Well, with the new head coach Frank Reich and the additions of former Detroit Lion DJ Chark, former Minnesota Viking Adam Thielen, former Cincinnati Bengal Hayden Hurst, Miles Sanders as well, running back from the Philadelphia Eagles, now on the Carolina Panthers. They need a quarterback. And out of this draft, this selection, Carolina will select Bryce Young, number 1 overall from Alabama. Great kid. His football IQ is tremendous, which will translate well to the NFL and Frank Reich and company. He's got veteran guys all around him. And you should really see this guy play at a high level, I believe, even as a rookie in the NFC South this upcoming season. So you're going to see him get the ball out quick, to Thielen, Chark, dump it out to Hayden Hurst, and then even, some screen passes to Miles Sanders. So it's going to be an exciting time to be a Carolina Panthers fan. And I'm excited to see what Bryce Young does. I'm a big fan of his. We watched a lot of his games at University of Alabama. Mm-hmm. He's just a phenomenal talent and a very upstanding young man.
I love the pick. I think it's the safest pick to make. Size be damned, coach. This guy got it done in the SEC, and he wasn't playing behind some midget football players out there from 14-year-olds. He was playing with some big boys, 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". That's what he's going to face in the NFL, and he was pretty good. I like this pick a lot, Justin, very much so. Okay, guys. Oh, go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, smooth operator, and he has the function. He's like you said, Drew. You articulated. He's 5'10". He knows it. I mean, he's not just going to sit there and be pinned in between the tackles trying to throw it downfield like he's 6'5". He's going to be mobile. He's going to set himself up through a window where he can see. They're going to be there. He's going to be just fine.
Yeah, I agree with you guys too. That's a nice pick. Now, the Houston Texans are on the clock, and gentlemen, that was me. And this was a challenge. You asked me a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, even not so much. But the rumors are everywhere that this team's going to go in a different direction from quarterback. I'm going to play this as that's a lot of gamesmanship. They have the second pick overall, and they also have the 12th pick coming up in this draft. You're not going to take two players in this draft and then decide you're going to be a garbage team again and get back into the top 10 and then get your quarterback. I don't like to play with fire like that. And I think they're throwing some smoke out there to keep Tennessee and Indianapolis guessing and not trading up as quickly as they would like maybe. And that's why I believe they're going to go with C.J. Stroud, the quarterback out of The Ohio State University. And this is a guy who's 2 years in a row has been a Heisman finalist. He's been outstanding at Ohio State. Yeah, I get he didn't beat Michigan 2 years in a row. I also saw him shred Georgia, and they nearly beat Georgia in the playoff this past season, which was impressive. Guys, I don't know what you think, and I'm curious, but I just can't imagine them passing on C.J. Stroud here at number 2.
Yeah, no, I think, hey, there's a lot of talk, of C.J. Stroud not performing very well on the new measurement that the NFL was using within the combine when evaluating the players from their cognitive response and some of those things. It formerly was the Wonderlic test,
yep.
But it's a different kind of measure now. And you know what? I mean, I really am very much in your camp, Drew. I just kind of doubt that that's going to really be something that drags his draft status down. And if it drafts it down to number 6, well, doggone it, I think we have something to really, really think about during those 15 minutes. I think we have something to really think about during those 15 minutes.
You aren't kidding.
But I agree with you, Drew. I think he's heading down to the Lone Star State. And they've been needing one down there since they moved on from Deshaun Watson. Yeah. And, and there are some very, very he's maybe not quite the elusive, mover or wanting to move like Watson does, but he throws with every bit of moxie Deshaun Watson does. I think C.J. Stroud is the fit and the right pick right here to Houston.
Well, you got the next pick, Coach, because that's going to be the Arizona Cardinals. Who do you like?
Down desert football. We're talking down. There's a wonderful statue out in front of that stadium. I've toured that stadium visiting my brother-in-law who lives in Mesa, Arizona, probably about a half hour, 40 minutes away from that stadium. A wonderful place. Looks like a great place to watch a ball game. This one for me, Drew, is a no-brainer. They still are paying a quarterback an awful lot of money in the name of Kyler Murray. And I do not think that they're going to be looking at quarterback at all here. I think they're going to be looking at probably the most dangerous and ready to make plays defender in this draft, and that is going to be edge defender Will Anderson from Alabama. We look at this again, 6'4", 243 pounds, an athletic extraordinaire, 2-time All-American, 2-time Nagurski winner. He is athletically gifted as an edge player, as has come out in this draft and probably since young to Washington. That's what we're talking. And, extremely high IQ. He had double-digit sacks this past year. He can train, he can play probably the rush end in a 4-3, or he could be a 3-4 linebacker. He has the ability to do both. Arizona's defense gets a lot better here, Drew and Justin, with the selection of Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama.
Yeah, a little bit. Justin, your thoughts on Will Anderson Jr.?
I wish he would fall to 6 and be a Detroit Lion. That's what I wish.
Yeah.
It's no secret. I love Alabama football. I love what Nick Saban's doing down there. And Will Anderson Jr. is just a product of that. And he's just straight up in your face, nasty football player, high level guy. So Arizona's going to really benefit from him being plugged into the lineup day one. That defense needs some help and needs some help fast. And he will do so with the departure of future Hall of Famer J.J. Watt.
Yeah, I totally agree. Love the pick, love the player. Would love it if the Lions somehow were able to get him. That would be fantastic. There are rumors all over that Arizona's trading back with a number of teams, whether they're looking for that next quarterback or whether they're looking for Will Anderson. It's going to be a real interesting draft night come Thursday on the 27th to see what Arizona does at number 3. But I love the pick there, Coach. Great pick. So, gentlemen, we move on to the Indianapolis Colts. And Justin, you are on the clock with the Colts. What are you going to do?
I think this is pretty obvious even to casual football fans. Ever since Phillip Rivers hung up his cleats, then they went out, tried to get Matt Ryan, tried to replicate that with an aging quarterback that did not go well. This defense is, pretty good actually, stat-wise. Got a good running back, Jonathan Taylor. You need a quarterback. And who's left? They're going to go ahead and grab for the University of Kentucky, Will Levis. Big body, quarterback, 6'4", 229. You see there on your screen. He ran a pro style offense at Kentucky. So the familiarity with the terminology and the play schemes will do well with Will Levis at the next level. And, when he runs, he's kind of like a Josh Allen type. We talked pre-show. He likes to just, get in there and run over guys. So big arm, huge arm, probably, on paper, the best arm in this quarterback draft class. So Indy finally gets, hopefully, their franchise quarterback, and a lot younger, of course. And this will do well for this franchise, I believe. And, they're going to win some games in Indy, with that good defense and with the addition of him. I believe Indianapolis could be a team to watch probably the next couple years.
Yeah, Coach, what are your thoughts on Will Levis?
Hey, this is a smart pick in many ways. The Colts have really come out, early saying they really want to tab down their quarterback of the future in this draft, which is smart because there are several good candidates. I think, if somehow Stroud is not selected at 2 or 3, I think that makes things different. But in our draft, he was selected at 2, and Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, who's the more accomplished guy? It's the guy that Justin just previewed. And, he's got a rocket arm. He has an absolute rocket arm. He's got a day one starter arm. He gets coached up. And, if he's a man of his craft, the kid was not getting on the field at Penn State. And there's a couple of different ways to look at that, too. That can be just looked at automatically as an indictment. And, he ran, and Sean Clifford, who was there for 10 years, he couldn't even beat him out. Well, okay, that's one angle. But also he left because he needed that change of scenery and he needed to prove himself somewhere else. And he couldn't do that at that school as a quarterback because there's only one that plays. So he left and he went to a place that was going to, provide him that opportunity. If we hear of work ethic issues, a la Zach Wilson, or accountability issues, a la like a Zach Wilson or DeMarcus Russell or something like that, PU. I don't know if that's the case. I think it's a smart pick by the Colts here if they were to play out this way. Very smart pick.
Yeah, definitely like it a lot. I think in my mind, the difference between he and Stroud and Young is I think the floor is a little lower with Levis.
Very fair. Yeah.
But I think his ceiling's just potentially just as high as anybody. So yeah, I like.
He could throw for 500 yards in a game.
Heck yeah.
He could throw for 4,500 yards, 5,000 yards in a season.
It's a good pick. Moving on to number 5, the Seattle Seahawks, and interesting. They don't need a quarterback. Honestly, I give them a lot of credit. They had stuck with Geno Smith. He was a backup for Russell Wilson off and on for a couple of years. They brought him back. They had traded Russell Wilson. They give him a shot, and he plays his ass off. And just an outstanding job by Geno Smith. Really happy for the guy. He's parlays that into a big contract, so he's locked in. They're not going quarterback. They're likely not going receiver here because they got a couple studs there in Lockett and DK Metcalf. And I hate to do this, fellas, because I love him. I love his football game at least. But I can't see them letting Jalen Carter, the defensive end from Georgia, slip by. They're just not going to happen. He's 6'3", 310 pounds. I mean, he was favorably compared to Warren Sapp out of high school. He's being very favorably compared to the likes of Warren Sapp and Aaron Donald coming into the pros. There's no question Jalen Carter is an outstanding football player. The issues are off the field. They're well documented. I'm not draining them here. If you want to hear about it, you can watch your defensive end and edge rush podcast preview of that position group, and we talk in detail on that. The bottom line is he's not slipping out of the top 10. And I don't think he would have got past number 6, to be honest with you. But I just don't see Seattle passing on him. If they do, oh boy, Brad Holmes has something to think about, huh, fellas? But to be honest with you, and I apologize, I didn't cut to the full screen there, folks. But at the end of the day, Jalen Carter is just too good to pass up. You got to be damn sure that the nonsense that took place is behind him. Or you better be very confident you have a locker room and a coaching staff and a front office that can handle these kind of situations and get somebody right. And because he's not a bad guy, he just needs to get his mind right, get set, get his priorities straight. And I think that'll happen. And Jalen Carter is an outstanding football player. Coach, what are your thoughts on him?
Drew, you hit the nail on the head. Justin's going to do some great, talk up of Jalen Carter. Perhaps maybe the best player day one in the draft. Potentially. And you know what, I as a Lions fan and Lions fans by and large are clamoring for Jalen Carter. I think we should probably think about some things in regards to him if he were to fall. Fortunately for our sake here, it's not even an issue. And, Drew had him going to Seattle, and I think he's dead on. I think that's exactly where they're going to go. It'd be a great pick for them. That's an outstanding defensive football franchise. Value defense at a very, very high level there. Pete Carroll and that staff. I mean, hawk tackling is how a vast majority of people even teach tackling. It's the Seattle Seahawks tackling circuit. It's outstanding stuff. He's going to go there. And, I think the Lions, we did not do a very good job of vetting out accountability in our players last year. I think that's very fair to say. Mm-hmm. I think that's very fair to say in this draft process. We did not do a very good job of that last year. Yeah. And we were maybe a little, so I think this year, we're probably a little more sensitive to it, I'm guessing. But in this case, it doesn't matter because he's going before we even get our chance to get our hands on him.
I was bummed to do it, but I had to. Justin, your thoughts on Jalen Carter?
He has a potential to be a difference maker. Like you just said, a Warren Sapp or Aaron Donald. I mean, to add that to your team, especially Seattle, who's, on the rise and, looking pretty good, like our Detroit Lions, you put him in the mix and, you're talking a vastly upgraded defense, can penetrate, can take on double teams. I mean, when he can and when he wants to, he can do it all. Like you said, about his off the field stuff. Hopefully that's, behind him and, learn from it, grow from it. And, but when you look at the tape, it's a no brainer. You gotta, if he lands at your team, whether it's our Detroit Lions or the Seattle Seahawks, you got to take a long, hard look at him. And can you really live with yourself if you pass on this kid?
That's the scary part, right? That's the scary part. It's always tough. But let's go now to Allen Park. And Coach, you are Brad Holmes in this scenario. You have the 6th pick. What say you?
Well, lucky me, right, guys? Brad Holmes has all but said this one's staying in Allen Park. We're not taking the 6th pick's not likely to be moved. The 18th, on the other hand, we'll talk about that down the road. but this one's standing pat. And, this board is playing out very much like I think a lot of people are anticipating. Bryce Young 1, very, very possibly CJ Stroud the number 2, Will Anderson the 3, then Levis, then Jalen Carter to Seattle. In this case, we are in a position where we could do a lot of different things. Brad Holmes is very comfortable with that. We shall see. But I think there's a lot of fingers pointing to this. We need to, even though we've addressed it big time through free agency, we have still a need of quality defensive backs and some physicality and some moxie at that position and some long-term solvency as well. We have to right the errors of the past with the missteps in picking Jeff Okudah 3rd overall back in 2020. And we are going to do that, fellas, and we're going to do that staying in the Big Ten Conference. However, we're going to the Western Division. And with the 6th selection in the 2023 draft, the Detroit Lions select Devin Witherspoon, cornerback, the University of Tony Scarcelli.
I love it.
And we are going to talk about a 6 foot, 180-pound freight train. He has the juiciest, coolest, probably physical clip of any prospect in this draft when he blows up a bubble screen. And he is a bubble screen nightmare, ultra physical, super hard nosed, phenomenal run defender. Gonna get hung up on some guys sometimes, probably gonna get some defensive holding calls, some PIs, and hey, some of the best coaches in the world will tell you penalty over touchdown anyway, right? Mm-hmm. And because what can happen on the next play? A fumble. So, hey, go ahead and do it. That's not going to be Devin Witherspoon's, Waterloo. He will get control. He'll get more refined, as we've known with Kirby Joseph and a lot of other Illinois football players, especially as of late under Brett Bielema. We're getting a football player and Devin Witherspoon that's going to improve because he's going to master his craft. Devin Witherspoon is your newest Detroit Lion.
I love the pick. Justin, your thoughts on Devin Witherspoon?
I love it. Coach, did a beautiful breakdown of him. He's physical, blows up that bubble screen. He's not afraid. And we've kind of been searching for that corner, and we thought we had that in Jeff Okudah, and sadly it didn't materialize. So this guy, Devin Witherspoon, could be that guy. And oh, by the way, we got another guy that played with Kirby Joseph on our team, and we all know how that's going so far. So could lightning strike twice? I think so.
I love the pick. Would I take Anderson or Carter over him? Yes, because I want to address the defensive line. However, and now there's fans out there, still fans out there that are like, why would you do that? You guys are idiots. They just signed Sutton, and they just signed Mosley, and they just signed John Gardner Johnson. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Two of those guys are on 1-year deals, and Jeff Okudah was traded.
There you go. And then you signed a defensive back in Moore, who unfortunately was suspended indefinitely, and he was immediately cut along with Quintez Cephas. So you got a couple of holes in the defensive backfield as a whole. You are getting Tracy Walker back at safety with Joseph. And yeah, you have Sutton and Mosley, but I love Witherspoon here. And then next year, you've got Sutton and Witherspoon. Great pick. So Devin Witherspoon, in our view, the newest Detroit Lion, and we got to love that. Next up, it's the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, and it is you, Justin, on the clock. You've got Mark Davis in your ear. You got the ghost of Al saying, just win, baby. What are you going to do?
You said it, just win, baby. And I know this might be unconventional and get a lot of groans from people, but you can't pass up a talent like a Anthony Richardson from University of Florida. And I say that because, yes, they did sign Jimmy Garoppolo. Yes, he's an adequate quarterback, but he will not hold up the entire season. So that's why you got to go out and get you a quarterback like Anthony Richardson, who can run too, by the way, as well as throw. We all saw on his pro day. 6'4", 244 pounds. And, when Josh McDaniels gets a hold of this kid, I think he can turn him into a phenomenal quarterback. He's going to have to get better at reading defenses, like all rookie quarterbacks, but he struggles a little bit in that area. But once he kind of gets better and fine-tunes that, he's got a cannon of an arm. He can run. He can split defenders while he's running. And when Garoppolo goes down, and I hate to say it, he most likely will, this guy can step in and probably save your season and win you at least a few games. So I see the Raiders selecting Anthony Richardson if he's there. You have to grab him. You really do. And he's a difference maker, and he could really make that team go.
Well, first of all, this is a very Raider pick. They do that. They're unconventional. And they've got some rings. They got some Lombardi trophies in the trophy case there, so it works. Love Richardson. Coach, your thoughts on him?
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's no question he's the best athlete at quarterback in this draft, and his ceiling is a bigger, stronger Michael Vick or Lamar Jackson, and Michael Vick in his prime, Lamar Jackson, bigger and stronger version, fat and maybe even faster. So I mean, if you don't want to sign up for that, I think the next team next to you will. So, he has all sorts of upside that you would be all double thumbs up if you're a Raiders Nation person. And you know what? It's a beautiful spot because really, as Justin articulated, he's supposed to sit behind Jimmy G for a little while anyway. So, one way or the other, whether he does get out there and get to prove his wares right away and show out, or if he does get the grooming that he probably really does need from a standpoint of being able to increase and improve his football IQ and his, professional work acumen as an NFL player, it's a great spot to be in for him.
Yeah, I think he's going to be very successful there, guys. I love the pick, Justin. He's a fine football player, no question. And next up, we go down to Atlanta, ATL, GA, the Falcons. And I'm on the clock with the Atlanta Falcons. And there's some sad faces at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I can tell you that right now because there's 4 guys that just got drafted. And the last one just went off the board. Now, there's other quarterbacks. I get it, but there's a slight drop off after this for various reasons, and the Falcons can't be happy about that. However, you move on, and the consolation prize, you're going to get one heck of an edge defender out of Texas Tech, and I'm talking about Tyree Wilson, the defensive end. And this guy is just a great athlete. He's 6'6", 275. His wingspan, I believe, is at 7'2". He's strong. He's fast. I mean, he's ideally a D end in a 3-4 set, but he's versatile. He can move inside too, which is a real plus. And I'll tell you what, guys. I mean, I strongly think that the Lions will be considering Tyree Wilson at 6, even though we have them going Witherspoon. He will be in the conversation. There's no question about that. He's not a blazer. He does need to work on some his pad level, but he is fast, but he's not quick. He's not as twitchy as other players have been in the past. But I think Tyree Wilson is a heck of a football player. And guys, I don't know, but I think he's going to work out well in Atlanta. But I'm sure they're bummed in this scenario that they don't have a quarterback that they're talking about. But Tyree Wilson's a very good football player. Justin, what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, it's gonna be disappointing that they're not gonna get their guy at QB. But you know what? The old saying goes, defense wins championships. So this might be a great addition. They're starting to build their defense. They just traded for our guy, Jeff Okudah. But right here on this slide, I will say he could play multiple positions. That is a very valuable asset, especially for a young man, starting out in the NFL. That bodes well for him. He can move all over the defensive line, even put him back at linebacker in some packages. I think Atlanta would have something special with him. So all is not lost with this pick.
Well, Coach, we're going down to Illinois.
Well, the last player that I selected was from that state. And so we're going to talk about their professional team. And the Chicago Bears, they've got themselves a running quarterback, a guy that's an excellent athlete, can really run around and do things. However, oftentimes it's been for his life lately. And once we get things kind of pinned down on Justin Fields, not much has been going on with that Chicago Bears offense. In other words, they need some people to let him become more of a quarterback and less of a runner. Yeah. And they need somebody that's going to also do some blocking for that running game that they have over there. That took a little bit of a punch when David Montgomery came up north of the Detroit Lions. However, they got some other people in place as well. And they're going to improve that offensive line, Drew. Yeah. And we drafted somebody out of the state of Illinois at pick 6. We're drafting another player from the state of Illinois at pick 9. And that is going to be Northwestern offensive lineman Peter Skoronsky. Peter Skoronsky is a guy that played offensive tackle there. He's a legacy player. He's had dads and grandfathers that have done things at both the professional and college level. He's a 3-year starter at left tackle over in Evanston and at Kyle Field. And at Soldier Field, he'll probably wind up there as well. He's just a tremendous technician. He can really take people for rides as a double-team partner and combo blocker. He's a real competitive reach blocker, which means he'll run you right off the field if he can. He's real fluid. He, might not be the longest guy at 6'4", 294, but there's some versatility in that body. And he's an excellent pass setter at both, as a left tackle, but could also do that at guard. Bears are getting better up front, guys, and they're not going too far to find their guy. You're going to be just down the road.
Yeah, I mean, they trade back. They had the first overall pick. They trade back with Carolina. They still end up with what I feel is the best tackle in the draft overall. And they get, and he's a home, and he played at Northwestern. So you got to like that. A lot of boxes get checked here, but the most important is covering Justin Fields' backside. And I believe that's a very sound pick. Lineman pick aren't very sexy, but I'll tell you what, ask some of us Lions fans how that works out. We love it. We love it, and that's the reason we're talking about being North Division on NFC North Division contenders with the Bears this year. The Lions are tough, and they have a great offensive line. That's how you build championships right here. Justin, you are up next, I believe, and you are now in the war room of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, they're coming off a tough Super Bowl loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. The offense, I believe, is pretty much set. They just locked up Jalen Hurts. They still have some playmakers. Defense, you're always looking to improve, whether you went to the Super Bowl or you lost, a majority of your games. So that's why I have the Philadelphia Eagles selecting Christian Gonzalez, University of Oregon. Big, tall kid, 6'2", 200 pounds. He was a 3-year starter, 2 at the University of Colorado, and then he transferred. Outstanding athlete, very instinctive. He's very good in man coverage. I think he will fit right in with the Philadelphia Eagles, and he can also learn from former Detroit Lion Darius Slay. I see him being a big playmaker on that defense, and they're just going to plug him in, and they're just going to go, and they probably will make another Super Bowl run with this young kid in the lineup. So to me, if he's there, this is a no-brainer pick. Completely elevates, your defense, and, you have a young stud at corner, which is hard to find these days.
Yeah, that's very true. Coach, you made the Witherspoon selection. How difficult was that with Gonzalez on the board for you too?
Oh, hey, this guy right here has got a little bit more length and probably some more fluid athletic ability. Christian Gonzalez has those things. Player style and player type. I mean, Devin Witherspoon's, your true kind of, tough guy football player. He's really even more football player than he is cornerback. Where I'm going to say something that might sound kind of weird because it's a football position, but Christian Gonzalez might be more cornerback than he is football player, if you understand what I'm saying. If you want someone that's going to cover and you want on the field on third down, you want on the field in a 2-minute drill, Christian Gonzalez is your man, not Devin Witherspoon. That yellow flag could come out. We don't want that guy doing that with 3 seconds left on the board at the 2-yard line. Mm-hmm. But Christian Gonzalez is your guy. If you're asking for somebody to be able to stick back and get back into the run and be a run defender and be a real heavy hitter and a real, I guess, vivacious tackler, Devin Witherspoon's your guy. man, Philly gets a good one with Christian Gonzalez. He's gonna, I mean, with CGJ over here in Detroit now, they're probably like, okay, whatever. We're reloading over here, baby. Big time get for the Eagles. Goes from being a duck to an eagle.
It's an upgrade. That's a little meaner bird, I would think. A little nastier. That's good. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, I guess I'm on the board next, and I am the Tennessee Titans, led by Mike Vrabel. And this team, they've tried to load up, and they've had some setbacks. And then they make trades, and they try to load up again, and they have some setbacks. Now they've been overall, their defense is very sound. Their running game, even though you read about Derrick Henry being on the block, it's just because people want him. I don't think he's on the block. But they got to help that offense. And to me, you got to go here and get a playmaker because you traded AJ Johnson to Philly. And they did draft Drake London last year. Not Drake London, excuse me, from Arkansas. Help me out.
Trayvon Burks.
Yeah, Trayvon Burks. He's a nice player, but I think they got to help him out a little bit. So I think they're going to go Jackson Smith-Njigba out of the Ohio State University at number 11 here. And I think Smith-Njigba is just the most complete receiver in this draft. He's not the biggest guy, but he's just a precise route runner, just has great footwork, super, super high football IQ, great hands, just sees the field. He's smooth. He's not a true burner, but he gets it done in every way, shape, or form. I don't see, barring injury, why he wouldn't be a perennial 1,000-yard receiver. And maybe that helps out Tannehill or Willis or whoever's going to be quarterback in Tennessee. They could trade up to get their guy. I don't know. But if they stay at 11, like we're assuming, got him taking Smith-Njigba here. So just curious, your thoughts on that pick, Justin?
I love it. I think he's the most complete wide receiver. Yeah, he's not going to flash you or burn you, like you said, but watch his catch point, catches everything, catches it in stride. He knows where the sticks are every single time, at least the games that I've watched, and he runs a complete route tree, which is rare to find with a young rookie wide receiver. So Tennessee's getting a good one, and they need help.
And on the clock next, the Houston Texans again. And Coach, this is you.
Well, we saw those Texans nab their guy at quarterback over in pick number 2 early in the draft. They're one of these franchises that has 2 first-round draft picks, this year, and that's an awesome thing to be able to say you have. And they, are going to be working with a new quarterback. Let's get this quarterback somebody that they can throw to. And I think he'd be real happy. Well, again, another territorial pick, a kid that's going to be staying in state as he moves just over from the Dallas-Fort Worth area over to Houston, Texas. And with the 12th pick, the Houston Texans select Quentin Johnston, wide receiver, TCU. We saw Quentin do his thing in the Fiesta Bowl against the Wolverines. Quentin Johnston can move his body at 6'4", 212. 4.3 speed, extremely athletic. He can accelerate now. And that means he can garner separation pretty quickly. And if he can get a clean release on a defensive back, he's in. They're seeing his taillights. They're going to be seeing his taillights, and they're not catching up to him. This kid has got, just untrackable speed if he's given a free release. He real difficult tackle after the catch. So he's a guy, even if he catches the ball short of the sticks, is a guy that can really advance the ball forward with his ability to evade and elude. Hasn't, produced a ton throughout his career, but that happens in college football. Eventually your time just comes. Quentin Johnston to the Houston Texans. And I tell you what, if Quentin Johnston would somehow be about 6 picks down the road, this would be a guy that we would really, really be foolish not to consider, because he's a little bit of a different body type than Amon-Ra, much like Shark, very much like Shark. This is kind of like getting almost DJ Shark back. And since we've got JMO, kind of out on the lam for a while, and it's not going to be around for a month and a half, we could certainly have a DJ Shark back in the fold would be a good thing.
Yeah, I agree, and I love the pick because it just makes sense. You want to set your new quarterback up for success, and why not go get, in some people's eyes, the best receiver in this draft. And for a long time he was the number one receiver in the draft, and he probably is on some boards. But he's the total package. He's probably the best big receiver in the draft without question, and I like the pick a lot. And we're going to go a little unconventional here because I don't know if any of you have heard or not, but this guy, Aaron Rodgers, got traded yesterday on the 24th. Go figure, to the Jets. Well, they swapped first-round picks as part of the deal. Well, we actually did this draft on Saturday, so shame on us. We should have known better, right? But Coach actually had the Packers pick at 15, so he's going to retain that pick at 13. So we're going to scoot on over there.
Well, thank you, Drew. I'll stay at the podium then.
There you go.
Yeah, the Pack. This is the post-Rodgers era. We're going to be going with Jordan Love, or at least we think Jordan Love here for the next couple of years, and we've got to keep Jordan Love upright. And we are going to do so by providing him a little more production up front. And I tell you what, the Packers are going to get richer here rather than poorer. Things are looking up for the Pack, because with the 13th selection, the Green Bay Packers select Darnell Wright, offensive lineman, Tennessee. Darnell Wright's a veteran out there. Savvy kid, has played across the whole offensive line. As a freshman and sophomore, he started at right tackle, as a junior and senior at left tackle, can play both sides of that line, probably can kick down inside. Big body at 6'6", 335, long levery player. Not maybe the most mobile kid in the world, but he has as probably strong of an anchor as there is in this draft at the offensive line position. Darnell Wright could be the strongest player in the draft. That's going to say something right there. And that kind of strength's going to equate to a nice opportunity to become a long-term starter as an offensive lineman with the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, hard to argue with that one. Justin, your thoughts on Darnell Wright?
Yeah, Green Bay has to do something here as far as protecting Jordan Love, because young quarterback, if they are, like Coach said, in fact, if they think that he's a long-term option, then you got to go out and get your long-term protector, and that could be this guy in Darnell Wright, holding Jordan Love upright, protecting that offensive line. Let's be honest, needs to be revamped, upgraded. This is the guy you go out and get, and hopefully can create some success in keeping Jordan Love upright and have him, make all the throws and whatnot. But I love the physicality, big guy, like Coach said, 6'6", 335, really young, talented. So, he can play all over the offensive line if they need him to. I like this pick.
Yeah, he's a nice player, no question. He really climbed the board too. We did preview him, and we did the tackles. If I'm not mistaken, that was our first prospect preview back in February, and he was up in our top 6. But he steadily has climbed up, and obviously now in our view, the number 2 guy. So fantastic pick, love it. Well, I guess the pressure's on me again. Oh boy, I lived in Massachusetts for 4 years, so I'm a little familiar with this team, New England Patriots, but it's a little different now. Even though Bill's still there, TB12 is not, and it's an interesting situation over there. But I tell you what, I think they're gonna go with a versatile player, and let's face it, New England doesn't make the sexy picks in the first round. It's just not their MO, and it's they've got a few reasons why they can argue that their method works. They got a few Lombardi trophies themselves. So I just don't see them passing up on a guy who I've even seen in some mocks rumored to go to Detroit at 6, which did surprise me a little bit. I think it's a little high, but I like Lucas Van Ness here, the defensive end out of Iowa. And he's a very, very sound football player, very strong guy. 6'3", 264, 6'5", 264 pounds. He's young. He's a redshirt sophomore. Very athletic and strong. The bend this guy has, watching him at the combine, his pro day is that's impressive. And he gets around that corner, man. He gets the edge. He is difficult to handle. He can move inside in situations. He's got a higher ceiling. He's got room to grow and learn, and that's great. But he's got to be able to develop and get more of a repertoire with his pass rush moves, I think. But that's where the inexperience comes in a little bit, and including with block recognition. But again, it's experience, and he seems to have a very high football IQ. He's certainly a great athlete. But guys, I like Van Ness here. I think this just kind of fit the Patriots. But I'm curious your thoughts on Van Ness, Coach.
Yeah. And he's one of the youngest players in the draft. I think he just turned 20 years old.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he at least he still is 20 years old. He's not 21 yet. So, I mean, there's a lot to work with. And a kid that young obviously is a pretty bright kid and has a pretty strong football IQ. And there's some versatility there, real flexy, bendy player off of the edge, real cerebral kid. He can, kind of really bend an arc really, really well, which means he's going to be a long-term fit as an outside guy, but could kick down inside as well. Coach Belichick's gonna really, really love having this guy around, and he is a prototypical New England Patriot, Drew. There's no doubt about it.
Well, Justin, we're moving on to the Meadowlands, and you're sitting there now. You had to swap your picks, but you just traded for Aaron Rodgers. What are you doing?
Oh man, this is the story of the NFL right now, and this has been brewing and building for a few months now. Selecting and signing Aaron Rodgers counterparts and buddies and whatnot. So what do you got to do now? You have to protect Aaron Rodgers. Let's be honest, he's not 24 or 25 anymore. Yes, he can still light it up all over the field, but you need to keep him off his back. So the New York Jets will select Broderick Jones out of University of Georgia, 6'4", 315 pounds. And the guy is just a crazy athlete. And, he does everything well. He's a great blocker downfield. What stands out to me is physicality. When you watch the tape, he finishes his blocks. He's not afraid to take on anyone or anything. And I believe, he will be a huge asset to not only the New York Jets, but to Aaron Rodgers as well. And he might get some pats on the helmet, throughout the season for, keeping Aaron Rodgers, healthy and not getting crushed to the ground, like our defensive end, Aiden Hutchinson. So the Jets will have to protect Aaron Rodgers here. So this, to me, is a solid choice. And, it keeps their franchise intact. And obviously, hopefully it keeps Aaron Rodgers healthy as well.
I certainly like Broderick Jones a lot. Played very well at Georgia. Got to see a lot of him. Gave Stetson Bennett a lot of time back there to do his thing. So no question, he's going to be an asset. This Jets team, I mean, let's face it, when the Lions played them last year, we were concerned about that defense, but Quinnen Williams wasn't playing that game, so we weren't as concerned. Weren't too worried about that offense, though. I mean, not disrespecting it, but just not real concerned about the passing game. Probably a little bit more so now. And then you add Broderick Jones in there to give number 12 a little, or he's going to wear number 8, I believe. So Aaron's going to let Joe Willie keep his 12. Good for him. We appreciate that, Aaron. I'm glad this didn't get dragged out till stinking June or July when training camp opens and have a grand unveiling of the jersey. I'm glad that drama's over. He's wearing 8, guys. But now Broderick Jones is a very good football player. Yeah, the Jets are going to be a hell of a team for the next 2 or 3 years. There's no doubt about it. And Justin, lucky you, because of that trade, you end up having to go back to back. So now you got to go to Washington, and they've had some upheaval around those parts, including their name, everything, their owner. What do you do here?
Yeah, you're talking kind of a little bit of overhaul, but not a complete overhaul. A big question mark. We really thought, or at least I did, when they got Ron Rivera, this would elevate this team to the next level, and it just kind of hasn't happened that way, albeit injuries and whatnot. Letting go of Carson Wentz, they thought he would step in and do some things here. So I think with Washington, and I hate to say this, it's almost like a safe pick because it's not. And these guys come at a premium because we just talked about one. But I believe they're going to solidify their offensive line even more and go get Osiris Torrance out of University of Florida.
Ooh.
6'5", 347 pounds. He was a 2-time All-Sun Belt Conference at Louisiana. I just said his size, just a very good physicality, not as good as the previous guy, like I talked about, Broderick Jones, but he gets the job done. And it's not a sexy pick by any means, but you need these guys. These guys are important for your football team. They're important in the NFL, and they are important if you're going to win games. And if they're going to compete in the NFC East, they have to fortify their offensive line. So Osiris Torrance can get that job done. And you could plug him in. He could play day one, which I do think he will. He'll, jump right in that lineup. And, they're just going to have to kind of ride that wave of, building, players piece by piece, because obviously they didn't make a big splash in free agency and whatnot. So this is a guy I think that you go out and grab because, like I said, they come at a premium. They're not always there. So I believe Osiris Torrance will go to the Washington Commanders.
I love Torrance. Coach, what are your thoughts on Torrance? I know you like him too.
Oh, yeah, and I think the Detroit Lions like him too. Things have changed, though, a little bit because, we could, if this is a couple picks, later, and where we're looking at, yes, we got Graham Glasgow back. But, again, we have to look at long-term solvency at the position, and would Osiris Torrance look good in Honolulu blue and silver? He absolutely would. Mm-hmm. This is crimson and gold, however, with the Commanders. And that size alone, this is, in this modern day and age, this size body moves very, very well. Robert Hunt down in Miami, big, wide shouldered guy, very, very similar build with Osiris Torrance. And he's a movement creator. He's a guy that will get things moving forward. We know what Washington Commander football is like. Dating back to the heyday in the great eras of the Washington Redskins, whether it be Joe Gibbs or George Allen, doesn't matter who the coach was. What they did well, and that was to be able to move the ball. The Hogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Osiris Torrance, brings us back to that kind of era player, and could be an anchor for years to come on that offensive line.
Love the pick, and I think they'll love it in Washington too, because it very, very easily could happen. They're also a candidate to try and trade up too, but it's going to be harder for them being at 16 to try and get into the top 5. It would cost them a lot. So I think this makes a lot of sense. So now I'm in Pittsburgh, and I had their pick last year, and that's one of the few I actually got. I actually pick it to go to them, and I've done a lot of mocks, and I know you guys have too. And I saw this guy at 18 with Detroit a lot, and I really he leapt up the board in my mind. But Detroit signed a guy, Cam Sutton, from the Pittsburgh Steelers, former Tennessee Volunteer, and he is locked in for 3 years in Detroit. So there's a hole to fill. And I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers will do that, going with the cornerback from the University of Maryland, Deonte Banks. And this guy, he's 6'1", 200 pounds. He can play man, he can play zone. He's physical. He's got speed. I really, really like this guy as a whole. If the Lions don't go corner at 6, he's definitely going to be in play at 18. But in this scenario, I'm going to break some hearts. I got to take him in Pittsburgh. Is there some issues here? Yeah, he can get a little grabby and clutchy. And like you talked about, some yellow hankies could come out with Witherspoon with his physicality. He can come out with Banks a little bit too. with the clutch and grab type stuff. But you know what? He's real good, and he's gonna learn. He's got to trust his skill set, I think, guys. And I think if he does that, he's going to be an excellent pro cornerback. So I really like this pick here at 17. Justin, what are your thoughts on Banks?
Well, it stands out to me, and you see on the slide there is he's tough at the catch point. You watch plenty of tape on him. That's all he did at Maryland. You know, he did not shy away from that, trying to go up and get it. You're going to have to do that at the next level. And I think he will, do well with that in regards to that playmaking ability. So I think he's a fine prospect. I think he's a fine athlete. I still think, he needs some stuff to work on, but that's a good thing because, once these coaches get a hold of him and whatnot, going through the preseason, this guy could be scary good. And once again, Pittsburgh reloads on defense at the corner position.
Yeah, what the heck? Had to do it. Coach, you're back in Allen Park. You're Brad Holmes again.
Like I said, lucky me. How did these picks get to fall in the 2 slots that I get to draft in? That's just, you know what? I guess I'm not buying lottery tickets anytime soon because this was my win right here. And honestly, Drew and Justin and everybody else, I mean, we could do a lot of different things here. I think there's a very strong likelihood in reality that this pick is no longer going to be a Detroit Lions pick. I think there's reason to believe that they really are trying to move it out. You've got some really phenomenal players still out there on the board here. Bijan Robinson, namely one of them, probably the best running back prospect that's out there. That's some are calling a generational type prospect. You've got some phenomenal offensive linemen that are still out there, some excellent defenders. We could do a lot of different things with this draft pick. And so where we decided to go with this is we're sticking with the game plan, and we are making this a defensive football team that can be a force to be reckoned with, and at every level of their defensive positions. And we need to support our edge defenders. We need to have people opposite Aiden Hutchinson that are not named James Houston that can play down and in there and be a force to reckon with an offensive tackle. And we do so with one of the draft's probably longer-term big names, and we're going to go to the ACC, to the Clemson University, and we are going to go edge defender Miles Murphy. He is going to be the Lions' 18th pick in the Sports Peninsula Podcast 2023 mock draft. 6'5", 275. So I know, Tyree Wilson's a guy that I think could be in play at 6 if we don't have a chance at Anderson or Carter. And Miles Murphy has a very similar size and frame. He's 6'5", 275 pounds. This is a guy that, has always been a first round tender. Could he slip down into the early parts of the second round? Well, we shall see. That could happen. But this is a guy that really has kind of maintained that kind of draft slotting the entire time. He's a great locker room player. He's a leader. He's vocal. He's communicative. He's somebody that is a bit of a magnet and attractive to other teammates in regards to his chatter and his ability to kind of be a congregationalist, a guy that can really rally troops and get people around him. Can really play anywhere on the defensive line. Or rather, he's not so much a nose or an inside shade, but he could put his hand in the dirt and become a defensive tackle, play five technique, play 7-eye or inside of a tight end, which is more of an anchored defensive end type position. There's going to be times where he's kind of a battler and a trench monger, but he's also a guy that's going to make plays, going to make our defense even better. Miles Murphy, your newest Detroit Lion.
Love the pick. And reason being, I mean, like you mentioned earlier, he definitely has first round written all over him. And he was even being mentioned higher in the draft early on. Now, some other folks have distinguished themselves, but that's not because of Miles Murphy doing anything wrong or having any significant issues come up. It is just is what it is. But I'll tell you what, you put a guy like Murphy on this team, you mentioned it with Hutchinson. Now if they're opposite ends, that's not a bad situation. It's ideal for Miles Murphy. Now, if we put him inside, he's not going to be getting the attention because you got to be worried about Hutchinson. You got to be worried about McNeil a little bit. You got to be worried about Okora in Houston. He's going to see a lot. He's not going to see a lot of double teams. So if he can take advantage of it, oh my goodness, this could be a tremendous pick. I really like Miles Murphy. I think he's going to be rock solid. He was awesome in college. He's going to be a great Detroit Lion. If it happens, I'm thrilled. Justin, you are up next, and you are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you lost your quarterback, but now you got Baker Mayfield. So what do you do here?
Yeah, a lot of people might say, oh, Tampa Bay, they need to, get better on offense. I don't think so. You got Todd Bowles, head coach, former defensive coordinator, defensive minded. And you got a guy, if he's sitting here, they would be foolish not to pick him up. And that is Brian Branch, safety out of University of Alabama. Phenomenal prospect. I hope he becomes a Detroit Lion. I don't think so because of the potential to trade back. And he might not be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, but if he's here, I have Tampa Bay taking him, and they are just going to keep loading up on defense because they got some guys that have some injuries and whatnot and may leave after this season for free agency. So you get a guy like Brian Branch that can play all over the field, phenomenal tackler, very physical, is not scared of anything, will plug in and play, a really good zone defender. And once Todd Bowles and company gets a hold of this kid, the sky's the limit for him. I just see him, being all over the field, kind of like a la Ed Reed type, maybe not as good, but, up there pretty well. So, yeah, I think Tampa Bay, they need to upgrade the defense a little bit just because of the injuries and the potential of the players that might leave after the season. You get a guy like this, you have to worry just a little bit less.
Yeah, no question. Coach, your thoughts on Brian Branch? I know, like Justin mentioned, you'd like him in Detroit. I know we had mocked him to Detroit a few times. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, he certainly is, a player to be considered at the pick that we just talked about if we do something different at 6. And if he was drafted at 6, I don't think anyone should, be highbrow because he's a very versatile player. It's the name of the game. That's what they want to see out of players. They want people to be Swiss Army knives. They want them to be multiple things out on the football field in given schemes and what have you. And this is, like you said, he's played strong, free, nickel corner. He's played some linebacker. There's so much to like. This is a guy that's going to make Tampa's defense a lot better, and they're a team that's going to have to play defensive football so they can get things figured out. Baker's a great, hopefully Baker becomes a longtime starter, and this was a little bump in the road, and he found his home because he's certainly a quarterback that's capable of doing that. But you get yourself a dynamic defender in Brian Branch and somebody that's going to really do some things over there.
Yeah, he
was in Alabama. He was a member of the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Oh, I apologize. Yep. I apologize for that. Thank you. That's a typo on my part.
Well, you know what though, Drew? Don't take most of the players in this draft are from Georgia. So
yeah,
that's okay.
It's probably what happened. It was a template from last year, and it was repeated. Yeah. So once again, an F up by Drew. it was the date on the Javonte Davis fight, and it's a college location for a prime first round pick. Awesome. So don't listen to what I'm telling you at all, folks. But I'm lucky enough to have the Seahawks twice here, just like Coach had the Lions, ironically. And I had them going with Jalen Carter at pick number 5. Now, want to look at the other side of the football a little bit, and having Geno Smith there, I've got a couple prime time receivers there. I've got Lockett and Metcalf. I've got a good running game with Kenneth Walker III. I have a good tight end in Will Dissly, but I also have a lot of injury concerns at tight end. And right now, I think that the the Seahawks can get in my mind, one of the better tight ends and possibly the best tight end on the board, and that's out of Utah, Dalton Kincaid at the number 20 pick. And Kincaid really does everything well. He's 6'4", 242, so he's got good size. He's a former basketball standout in high school, so he's athletic. We know that. We've seen him in college. He's the prototypical pass catching tight end is what you need. He's got great body control, his hands, his feet. Everything looks like this is going to be just a very, very sound top 10 tight end in the NFL for years to come. Now, he's not a tremendous blocker. I think they'll take the offense that he gives you in the pass catching department, but he's not a terrible blocker either. It's not like this guy's a liability. It's just not his forte. Obviously, being a basketball player, he hasn't played as long in his case as in football. 6 years total, so not quite as much experience, but nonetheless a real talent. Probably could get bigger, and that might help his blocking too. And he might have to get bigger, but putting on 10 pounds of muscle in the NFL doesn't seem to be too difficult for a lot of the players that we talk about. But I see Dalton Kincaid here, guys, as just being a good fit for the Seahawks. Justin, your thoughts on Kincaid?
I like him. The big thing about him is that he's really good at, catching the football, at the highest point. Other than DK Metcalf, who they really have in the goal line situation to go up and get it. Well, now you got this guy to do that. So you got two problems to worry about. So I think him in the red zone is going to be really, really good. So I think Seattle gets a good one here. He's not going to wow you or, blow the stat sheet, away, but very serviceable. And like you said, if he can just get a little bit bigger, 10, 15 pounds maybe, then, he could be that complete tight end that you would like to see in the National Football League.
Got that. I do like him a lot. I know the Lions could be looking at tight end as well at 18. I think it's a possibility. I don't think they're going to look as strongly there, but I think there'll be consideration for Kincaid there too. Coach, you are the Los Angeles Chargers, and you're picking at 21. Who are you taking? Because the Miami Dolphins had to forfeit their pick for this year, so now the Chargers are on the clock.
Yeah, old Dolphins need to stick their nose in the rule book a little bit closer, and maybe
been going around lately, hasn't it?
Yeah. They need to, maybe read the fine print in there a little more closely. Get the old magnifying glass out there, make sure they're brushed up on things because they don't have a first-round draft pick from a bunch of, horse nonsense here. But the riches go to the Los Angeles Chargers in this case, and in my estimation, Drew, they've this has been a franchise that really much of our adult life has kind of just been given a lot of credit and really have shown very, very little, as a result of it. And they have another great quarterback in Justin Herbert, and somebody that is a guy that is very capable of being a top quarterback in this game. They've exhibited an excellent run game. They've been at times very strong defensively, but it's never been a complete package. And one thing you want to make sure that Justin Herbert's got is his targets. And, we've got some good ones there with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. And, we need to make sure that stays that way. There's some depth there, Josh Palmer and some of these other guys that have kind of shown to be nice football players in Los Angeles. And because I had Keenan Allen and that he played like around 4 quarters this year, and I had him in fantasy football. And, being the, just the Lombardi style winner I am in fantasy football, I never released him. I kept him all year. And I think I had every single Los Angeles Charger that played wide receiver on that team this year on my fantasy roster at some given point in time. And I think if I take Keenan Allen, Drew, I'm going to have another, because with the 21st pick, the Los Angeles Chargers stay right in town. They're staying in town, and they're taking Jordan Addison, wide receiver out of the University of Southern California. Coming by the way of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He's a Pitt transfer, not a big guy. This is the guy that was rated the number one and best wide receiver in the college game this year with the Blitnikoff Award. Tremendous route runner. He's got great ball skills, real intuitive mover. We talked about that a lot this year in our mock draft coverage. About movement skills and ability to just be elusive with your creative movement. Great hands, can accumulate all sorts of yardage after the catch. He's just a tremendous pace setter out there. He'd look really, really good out there in SoFi Field coming up from the old LA Coliseum where the Trojans play their home games because they're keeping things in-house. Jordan Addison's staying in Los Angeles.
He's silky smooth, man. He does it all. I like him a lot. I think that's a great pick. I think it's a smart pick. It's not only an insurance policy behind Allen and Williams, but he will overtake perhaps maybe number one very soon. He's that good. And you got a guy like Herbert slinging it back. There's plenty of balls to go around over there. That's not an issue, I don't think. I like that pick a lot. And you know what's ironic? You're kind of getting back to the Lions a little bit because, yeah, would he look good in Detroit? Yeah, he would. The reason I think the Lions are shopping that 18 pick, at least that's the rumor, is every guy we're going to talk about all the way down to 31 is a pretty damn good football player. And it makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. It makes sense why they would stay at 6 or maybe move up, but not want to move back from 6. But to move back from 18, they could still get an outstanding football player and more draft capital. So it makes a lot of sense. Whether it'll happen or not, we're going to find out in a couple of days. But Addison here at 21 to the Chargers makes a ton of sense. Dustin, you are on the clock now. You are in Baltimore, led by John Harbaugh. Who are you taking there? You got a little uncertainty at the quarterback situation over there, right?
Yeah, it's interesting to say the least. You have potentially the most dynamic, quarterback in the NFL, Lamar Jackson. And, with all the offseason stuff that's going on and him tweeting out stuff, him not having an agent, this back and forth stuff. And then out of nowhere, OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. signs with the Baltimore Ravens. So you're as a Baltimore Ravens fan, you're just going, what the heck? What are we going to do? Well, I'm going to tell you what they're going to do, and what they've been doing since I was a teenager is reloading that defense, and they're going to do that once again this season. So the Baltimore Ravens with the 22nd pick will select Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State, the son of Pittsburgh Steelers standout Joey Porter. This kid's phenomenal. 6'2", 192 pounds, very long, lanky. He's got a lot of range as a defensive back. Outstanding leverage player at the line of scrimmage. And this is your prototypical Baltimore Raven cornerback. I mean, they just keep getting him year after year after year, and he will perform well in Mike McDonald's defense. And this will give them some stability as opposed to maybe the offense. Don't know where that's going to go or end up this season. But I'll tell you what, the Baltimore Ravens will once again be a top 10 defense, especially with Joey Porter Jr. On one of the corners there on the field. I love this kid a lot. Again, I wish he could be a Lion too. I wish we had several picks, in this first round, but fine player.
Real good player. Coach, what are your thoughts on Joey Porter Jr.?
Justin just nailed it. Countersunk about 5 nails with about 5 swats of the hammer. I mean, it is a real good player fit. It's a real good player fit. All of his intangibles are exactly what John Harbaugh and Mike McDonald like in that franchise from their defensive backs. And his physical demeanor and his lanky, kind of rangy, hand striking coverage type technique and ability is what we've seen out of the Chris McAllisters, the Jimmy Smiths, those kind of Marcus Peters, the guys that have done things as members of the Baltimore Ravens football franchise. I just couldn't agree more with what Justin had to say. It was, extremely, extremely fitting. Yeah, I would very much be happy if this guy was taking about 4 picks earlier if we don't go that route at number 6.
Yeah, Porter's a stud. There's no question about that. He if the Lions don't go corner at 6, he's very much in play at 18. Absolutely. Well, fellas, I got to go back to the NFC North, and I guess I'm Rick Spielman. No, it's not Rick Spielman anymore. So, but I got to do the Vikings justice here. I got to do it right. They're a good football team. They have taken a hit over the last couple of years. Now they're slowly kind of eroding, I would say. And Cousins is in his last year. Cook's been nicked up. His contract's nearing an end here soon. They lose Adam Thielen to the Panthers, like Justin mentioned. That's one of Bryce Young's new toys. If this works out the way we think it will, so you still have a stud in Justin Jefferson there, and there's no question you got to get him some help. And I'm going to give them, and I ain't doing this as a Lions fan, because there's some folks that think this guy might actually be the best receiver in the draft, which tells you how much parity there is. We're going to go with Zay Flowers, the wide receiver out of Boston College, and not big, 5'10", 172. But as Coach noted in his scouting report, he's the 11th child of 14, so you had to be quick. You got to, if you wanted to get the best food at the dinner table, you had to be quick. If you wanted to get the bikes in the garage, you got to be quick. So Zay Flowers is quick, no question about that. But he is absolutely in space. He's electric. That's a great word, and that's exactly what he is. He's competitive. He's very aggressive. He's an aggressive runner. He's competitive at the catch point. 5'10", 172 is not that big, but he's a fighter. He's a scrapper. He's going to be potentially very special there in Minnesota because Justin Jefferson's obviously going to get his, but he's also going to command a double team. So I think in this scenario, Zay Flowers works out pretty well for the Vikings. And Justin, your thoughts on Zay Flowers?
Well, first thing that comes to my mind is that he plays bigger than what he actually is, listed at 5'10". I would liken him to a hybrid of Steve Smith Sr. and Golden Tate, another former Detroit Lion. That's the physicality that he has on the field. Like you said, you got to be quick and, catch that ball, and he's just not going to go down. He's going to fight you for every single yard. So this is going to do well for the Minnesota Vikings because, let's be honest, can't keep throwing to Justin Jefferson as talented he is. Defenses will scheme for that. So you get a guy like Zay Flowers, that could take over Adam Thielen's spot. And, Thielen's numbers were kind of dropping there in the last few years. This is a young kid that, could have that chance to ignite this offense. And I really like him. I like that he plays bigger than he is. A lot of people may overlook that, but, he's a very, very tough competitor.
I agree. I think he'll also be a candidate for special teams, returning punts and what have you too, potentially. I don't know if he did a lot of that at BC, but he's got the skill set to handle it. That's for sure. Coach, you are up next, and you are the Jacksonville Jaguars. And last year you were picking first overall in Jacksonville, and now things are looking up. What do you think?
What a difference a year makes. That's a franchise that has done a little bit of winning in their span of being around. They've never won it big. They've never been to the Super Bowl, a la the Carolina Panthers, who've been there a couple of times. But they are one of these expansion teams that, that's had some relative success. Our quarterback coach was, a big part of that, and Coach Brunell.
Mm-hmm.
But Trevor Lawrence is the man now, and he really, really showed why he was the first overall selection. He showed every bit of that. He is that type of player and really has got the Jags going in the right direction. This year, they're going to work on the other side of the football a little more exclusively, and they are going to get splashy in the way of an athletic, twitchy, explosive edge rusher from the state just north of them. Via Athens, Georgia, edge rusher Nolan Smith will be coming to the Jags with the 24th selection. 6'3", 235. He's not your prototypical long Aiden Hutchinson style defensive end or Bosa. He's not like one of the Bosa brothers. He's, more of a quick turn body guy that can play in space as well. He Probably is more of a 3-4 outside linebacker or a sub package type guy off of the edge. Why would you draft a sub package type player at the 24th overall selection? Because he's not going to be just a sub package player. He's a guy that's going to be moved around the formation, and his athleticism is going to be used. He is probably as the most athletic edge defender that we have out there, not named Will Anderson. That being said, there are some of his athletic skills and ability that rival that of Will Anderson Jr. Nolan Smith is going to yet make the Jaguars even better this year, because he is going to be along his college teammate Trayvon Walker, and I tell you what, they got the defensive ends from last year's Georgia defensive or national championship team are now going to be the starting defensive ends of the Jacksonville Jaguars, who could very well be the AFC South champion.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if it happened. It absolutely could happen. And I really like Nolan Smith. And one of the reasons I wasn't considering him as much at 18 is because of the presence of James Houston, who's a similar type player. Not quite as big as Nolan Smith, but Nolan Smith's not a huge end either. But his versatility is just, you can't beat it. And he, like you mentioned, Swiss Army knife, and that's the kind of guy he can be on the line. I mean, you can put him anywhere and he's going to wreak havoc. He's an exceptionally athletic guy. I mean, he's a very good football player. I love Nolan Smith. It's going to be a good pick for Jacksonville, no question. Justin, you're up, and it's Big Blue, the Giants. And they just made Danny Dimes the $40 million a year man over there. So what are you thinking here?
Yeah, so the Giants, again, this is a team we don't really know, the direction that they're kind of going. They made the playoffs and whatnot. Yeah, they signed Danny Dimes. Where do they go from here? I believe that they're going to head over to the defensive side of the football and get better as a football team there, which is why I have them selecting Trenton Simpson, linebacker out of Clemson. Just a phenomenal player. 6'5", 309 pounds, just, a brute force. What he can do is he can play all over the field. That's what I like about him. And he's very, very, very physical. I just love the development of him. I think he has a very high potential just to be a Pro Bowl caliber player. I know that's very, crazy for me to say. He's not even in the NFL yet, but I love the way he plays the game, and I think he's going to help, the G-men, and they need help on defense. So if they kind of get that short up a little bit, I think once again they can make a serious run in the playoffs and, possibly beyond with the addition of Trenton Simpson.
Yeah, he's 240. That's another. That's number 2 for me. If I do it again, it's 25 push-ups on the air. There's no doubt about that. So he's not quite that heavy, but yeah, he's certainly a very fine linebacker. What are your thoughts on Trenton Simpson, Coach?
He's going to be a coverage guy. He's kind of your new age linebacker. We're going to be a guy that's going to stack, and he's going to stack and flow. He's going to be a guy that you're going to blitz. He's going to be a guy that's going to be able to drop in coverage, playing flats, honor zone schemes real well. Your modern day guy, it's a smart guy to have around. New York, and not just New York, needs to have a guy like this around. His play style is a lot like Alex Anzalone. That's very similar type of a linebacker you have with Trenton Simpson. And somebody that would make some sense here, sure. There's some reasons to think that a Trenton Simpson would be a nice fit here in Detroit as well, but that's not going to be the case. He's going to be a Big Blue, and he's going to be enjoying that New York skyline. He's going to be a nice fit for the Giants.
Nice football player, very nice football player. It's interesting with him. He's a tough kid, and you said he'd look good in Detroit, no doubt. Now it's me, and I'm, oh boy, Jerry Jones. And it's a party at Valley Ranch right now, guys. We are officially celebrating right now. There's no drama here. We're running up with the pick, and because we're keeping it home, and it's a sexy pick, and everyone's going to be happy because we're going with Bijan Robinson, the running back out of Texas. And this is a phenomenal athlete right here. And I could almost see the Giants screwing them and taking Robinson, although I think there is a plan B out there if that would happen. But in this scenario, no. Now, Zeke Elliott's not with the team anymore. Tony Pollard's the lead back, a nice back. This makes a lot of sense. They're loaded at receiver. They have Dak Prescott. They got a good line. They have a great defense. This pick, gentlemen, I think scares me a little bit because I think this makes Dallas a very good team. This is a Doak Walker Award winner last year. He's the 4th all-time leading rusher in Texas history. Guys like Earl Campbell went to Texas, folks. He's that good. He's patient. He can explode when he needs to. There's not a lot of negative to say about Bijan Robinson's game. I mean, he can be a little upright. He maybe takes a few too many hits because he is very capable of taking them. But, obviously in the NFL, you want to preserve yourself a little bit. You want to be smart about that. But at the end of the day, he's an aggressive, smart runner, and he's elite. He's an elite talent at running back. And Justin, your thoughts on Bijan Robinson?
Well, there's some talk that he might be a Detroit Lion, in some mock drafts. And I wouldn't be opposed to that. But, yeah, you're talking about the most complete running back in the draft. And this could be a player that could really take your team over the top. I like this pick here in Dallas because obviously they just got rid of Ezekiel Elliott. They have Tony Pollard there, but, I don't think he'll be able to carry the load all the time. So you complement him with a Bijan Robinson, who's basically Zeke Elliott, 2.0, 2.5, whatever. I think he's a better athlete, and I think he'll be a better running back than Ezekiel Elliott. Like his size, 6 foot, 220 pounds. He can do it all. I watched that game against Alabama, and he performed, I thought very well in that football game. So once again, it would be great if he was a Detroit Lion, but may or may not happen. But if you're in Jerry's world, you're hooting and hollering. You're very excited.
Yeah, I think they'll be happy with this one. No doubt. Coach, you are up next, and you get the Buffalo Bills, and that's a pretty successful team right now. What are you doing?
Yeah, Bills Mafia. We hosted them at Ford Field earlier this year. It was kind of a cool thing. They actually had a home game in Detroit. And the Bills are so close in a very, very difficult football conference. The AFC is very tough. And, with teams like Kansas City, teams like the Baltimore Ravens that never go anywhere, upstart teams that are really, really well coached and well staffed, like the Miami Dolphins, teams like the Cincinnati Bengals, tough conference to win in, and they are right there. They're one of those teams that are so close to being a Super Bowl team. And what is it exactly that they're missing? Well, I think there's a lot of different areas you could go to with that, but they're going to get better in one of those facets, and that is for sure. This is one heck of a football player to be getting this late in the draft. And with the 27th selection in the Sports Peninsula Podcast mock draft, the Buffalo Bills are drafting out of Clemson University Brian Bresee, defensive tackle, 6'5", 300-pounder, 5-star, high school recruit, real good athlete, was also a big-time basketball player in his in his area as a high school basketball player, can really do things in a small area, can, plays football in the phone booth really, really well, scheme and, technically versatile, can play the traditional 3 technique. Outside eye of a guard, in between a guard and tackle, can play what they call the 0 and 1 shades, which are head up nose or just an inside eye alignment of a guard. As a nose tackle, he can play the 5 technique, which is more what we would refer to as the outside eye of the tackle, which would put him closer towards an edge or an inside defensive end. Real scheme versatile, ready to plug in and play. He may not be a guy that's going to break Buffalo's all-time sack record. I think Bruce's record's in pretty good shape there. But he's going to be a guy that's going to make that defense a whole heck of a lot better. And Buffalo should be smiling, being able to take Brian Brisset with the 27th pick in the draft.
Yeah, I imagine they would be, no doubt. He's, like you say, he's not going to be shattering sack records anytime soon. But no, he's going to be. But he could be a Joe Klecko type guy who we just saw is going to be in the Hall of Fame himself. He's that kind of guy. He's a thick guy. He's got a nasty streak to him. He can be nasty. I really like this pick a lot. He's in play at 18 even too. That's I keep talking about. He's a talent. He's been mentioned anywhere between like 12, 13, all through the down to the 30 in the first round. He's all over, and it's not because he's unpredictable. It's just the way this draft has fallen. But yeah, what a find at 27 to get Brisset there. That's outstanding. I like that pick a lot. Justin, you are up next, and you are the Cincinnati Bengals, and you're trending in the right direction. You almost got one, but what are you doing here?
Yeah, they're almost there, and I believe today they picked up, shocker, the 5th-year option on Joe Burrow, the quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals. I believe, if you're asking me, that their offense is pretty set. It looks to be like their defense needs to be upgraded, or kind of insert some more players there to take them over the edge and make that next step. And I believe they're going to do that because another defensive tackle is about to come off the board, and they will select with the 28th pick. The Cincinnati Bengals will select Kalijah Kancey from University of Pittsburgh, 6 foot, 275 pounds, very good leverage, and he knows how to use it with his body type. He could probably put on a little bit more weight, and I would imagine he probably will do so at the next level. But this guy's very physical, very tough, slippery. He's very flexible, good balance, when he finds it, and just, a great defensive player. I can't say enough good things about him. He's starting to, get more and more up with me as the draft goes along, as we creep up to Thursday night. And this is another prospect. I know we sound like a broken record at this point, that I would love to see a Detroit Lion, but with Cincinnati, I think he'd be a great fit, and he will, add to that defense and possibly, take them over the hump, and make a serious Super Bowl run.
Coach, what do you think of Kancey?
Oh, he exudes Aaron Donald, right? I mean, he's everything that that Aaron Donald was when he was a Pittsburgh Panther and played there in college. Aaron Donald was a little bit bigger, and Aaron Donald was not somebody that was going to be drafted outside of the top 15. He was consensus, top 15 pick. So that's kind of where Aaron Donald had on him. He goes, well, this is Aaron Donald 2.0, Aaron Donald 2.0. That's not necessarily fair to Mr. Kancey. That's an awful lot to, big shoes to fill. And we're not talking about very big guys here. But he does. He plays very, very similar. I think if he's channeled and used properly, he can give you a lot of what Aaron Donald does. I just wonder if Kalijah Kancey's going to be able to play every down.
Yeah, that's a concern, definitely. And the thing with Kancey, why not go get the guy who he's being compared to the guy that took the Super Bowl from you? So you might as well go get him, and hopefully he can help you out. But I like Kancey a lot too. Yeah, but you're right. He might be a little more situational, which could that's probably what might hurt his draft status. But Justin, I love the pick because I think I wouldn't be crying if he came to Detroit. I'll be honest with you. I think he's a very good football player. Like him a lot. So we're in the home stretch. Last 3 picks here, guys, and this is your buddy Drew's last one for the year here with the New Orleans Saints, the 29th pick in the Sports Peninsula Podcast 2023 NFL Draft. They got to keep Derek Carr upright, new quarterback. Got nice talent there on offense. Got a pretty solid defense. Well, let's keep Carr upright, and we're going to go with, for some reason, I keep picking guys from the Ohio State University offensive tackle, Paris Johnson Jr. Seen a lot of them, and I can't say that I'm not impressed with the players in the university. They put out a fine football team every year, even though the Wolverines got them 2 years in a row now. I'll keep mentioning that, but Paris Johnson Jr. is a very good football player, 6'6", 315 pounds. He started at right guard in 2021 and then moved to left tackle in 22. So you got to like the versatility. He's a very, very intelligent football player and very, very good in the classroom, which is a nice thing that's a good 1-2 punch there. And then he's just a fluid guy. He's got long arms. He can pull. He's very being able to pull from the tackle spot is difficult. I know that it's not a lot of teams don't do that often, but some do. Or even just running sweeps for that matter. He's very, very versatile. He can do that. Just good power and mobility. He probably needs to develop a better punch, so a little better strength. But I think a guy like him with his frame, I don't think that's not going to be a difficult thing for him if he's coached up the right way, and I'm sure he will be in New Orleans. He can get stood up and stonewalled a little bit, so he's got to watch his pad level, and he's got to make sure he's getting his technique down. And he probably got away with a lot of things in college, maybe that aren't going to fly at the NFL level. But with good coaching, these things can work themselves out. But what do you think about Paris Johnson Jr., Justin?
I love the pick, and I said this earlier with the Washington Commanders pick. It's not a sexy or flashy pick, but it's one that needs to be made. Let's be honest, the NFC South is up for grabs, this coming season. With the addition of Derek Carr and our former running back, Jamal Williams,
True.
Paris, Johnson Jr. is going to be, blocking, for both of these guys. And I believe he'll do well. And like you said, he's got some stuff to clean up. And Coach alluded to this earlier. Big bodies are, they're not a dime a dozen. This guy's a redwood tree, 6'6", 315 pounds. So, and it says here too, he's a high academic achiever. So that will do well for him, learning the playbook and wanting to show his coaches and teammates that, hey, I'm ready for this. And hey, I'll keep you upright, Carr. Let's go win this thing, the NFC South division. So this is a very solid pick for the New Orleans Saints moving forward in the 2023 season.
Well, Coach, this is it. This is your last pick here. You are the Eagles, their second pick in the round.
Well, yeah, my swan song, I tap out after this one. Great job, Justin. You made wise, excellent selections, as you have too, Drew, and you'll be and deservedly so finishing us out with the Kansas City Chiefs in a draft pick here. But the Eagles, the near world champion Eagles, are on the clock, and they went defensive back with their first selection, getting Christian Gonzalez, and that is an awesome pick. Yeah. The defensive back from Oregon via Colorado, and their secondary got a lot better and filled some voids there. They're going to be getting ready to replace some very important pieces to their interior offensive line in Philadelphia. Jason Kelce barely came back. I mean, he really is of an age where he's truly considering his options. And Philadelphia, you aren't just going to replace a guy like that with a snap of a finger. But I tell you what, you can get better in a hurry if you've got a player in place that is ready to lock and load and be better than Jason Kelce, perhaps. And with the 30th pick in this year's Sports Peninsula Podcast mock draft, the Philadelphia Eagles are going interior offensive line with John Michael Schmitz out of the University of Minnesota. There's John Michael. How you doing there, sir?
Throwing the boat.
Big 6'4", 320-pounder. Was a real strong wrestler in high school. This in many ways, he has a lot of similarities to Frank Ragnow. He's from the state of Minnesota. Interior offensive lineman, has a wrestling background. Projects best at center, but has played some guard. So he could get there out on the field at a fairly early in his career. He's an outstanding down blocker. He's going to be great off of the zone scheme and the power type plays. So, and eventually I think he's going to become, a real smooth transition to center for the Eagles and Nick Sirianni. John Michael Schmitz is going to row his boat from Minnesota to Philadelphia. Welcome to the city of brotherly love there, John Michael.
Love the pick, because this is the kind of pick that championship teams make. They make picks like this to solidify the trenches, which is why I love what Brad Holmes has been doing in Detroit. Now, people can clamor for skill position players all day long till they're blue in the face, and guess what? Yeah, you need them, of course, and they're fun. It's great. I mean, it's exciting, but a guy like John Michael Schmitz could lead you to several championships and be a rock in the middle. I don't think anyone in Detroit's crying about Frank Ragnow being a pick. He's a pretty good football player. So I think that the city of Philadelphia is going to enjoy Mr. Schmitz do his thing and for many years over there as well. Justin, you are wrapping this one up, and you are the world champion Chiefs. What do you do here?
Oh, man. Last pick of the 2023 first round mock draft of the Sports Peninsula Podcast. A little bit of change in Kansas City. Eric Bieniemy leaving, going to the Washington Commanders, be their offensive coordinator. Andy Reid, what's he going to do now? They won it all again. What are they going to do? If you're asking me, it's not going to be defense. We know what they are. This is an offensive-minded team, an offensive juggernaut. We've seen it, with the departure of Tyreek Hill, and they were still humming along, which is why I believe that the Kansas City Chiefs, with the 31st pick of the 2023 NFL Draft, will select Michael Mayer, tight end out of University of Notre Dame. Exceptional talent, 6'4", 251 pounds, can do it all. He's a very good pass catcher and blocker. And I like this pick because you don't really need a receiver here. You got both a receiver and a blocker. And, oh, by the way, they have Travis Kelce too. So can you imagine these two guys on the field at the same time? That takes the place of like 4 wide receivers. So I really like him. He's just very good in the open field, catches the ball, very good strength. And I think, him learning with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and of course, future Hall of Famer Travis Kelce, this is a phenomenal pick right here. And I think they hum along and they probably make it to the Super Bowl again, just on this pick alone.
Yeah, it'd be quite a tandem there with Mayer and Kelce. What do you think about that, Coach?
Oh yeah, and it's really smart investing this way. It can really diversify their offense and make it even more difficult and sophisticated to defend. It gives Pat Mahomes a whole nother set of variables to play with, being able to put 2 tight ends out there like this at one time. And then, as Justin alluded to, he's eventually going to be tight end 1 when Travis Kelce decides that, enough's enough and he decides to wrap it up. And really they'll pick up right where they left off. Even though maybe McCole Hardman didn't do exactly what Tyreek Hill did, in Kansas City, he filled the void, and other guys kind of stretched and became different. Juju Smith-Schuster was a big pickup for the Chiefs in that regard too, to help do this. Getting a guy like a Michael Mayer in there with Kelce is so smart, and definitely prepares for the future, but also diversifies things and makes them extremely formidable going into their defending crown year.
No question. And great way to wrap it up, guys. Just tremendous, a lot of fun. Forgive me for the typos. We got to get better with that. I got to hire an editor. But overall, I like the picks. Few surprises, but I think there's going to be a lot of surprises on Thursday. So I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, opinions are like, everyone's got one, and that's what we got. We got an opinion, and we put out. You guys invested a lot of time in this, and I appreciate it. You guys did a hell of a job, and it's why we keep doing this, right? So enjoy the draft, folks, and have an open mind. I'm talking to you Lions fans. You seem to be a little more relaxed now with a 9-8 season, but I can remember a lot of you weren't so relaxed when we were 9-7, 10-6 all the time in the 90s. Weren't too relaxed. But maybe we've learned that 9-8 ain't so bad as long as we're moving on up and doing our thing and improving every year. So, we got to trust. We got a hell of a GM in Brad Holmes. You got a hell of a coaching staff led by Dan Campbell. You got Chris Spielman in that room. He knows what he's doing. And yeah, I know the Ford family owns a team, but Sheila's proven she's a little bit different. So let's just trust this group and let's see what they do. They're going to bring some talent here, and we're going to win some football games. For Coach Andy Schill, the Marine City Mariners, and for Detroit's finest, Justin Merriquin, I am Drew. Take care, everybody. Thank you for watching. We appreciate you so much. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. To subscribe to the podcast, simply click the subscribe button on our YouTube channel's homepage and give us a like. You can also follow our audio podcast on multiple platforms, including Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts, just to name a few. Give us a follow on Twitter. Our handle is @SportsPPodcast to check out our latest releases. Thank you again for watching and listening. Remember, when you want to hear about sports in a great state of Michigan, there is only one Sports Peninsula Podcast.